So we are back again with something that is trending. This is something that, of course, we can't do 3 minutes with Osasu this week without talking about that. Now, looking at the whole story about Natasha, that's Senator Natasha, the suspension after her suspension after speaking out about sexual harassment by a top politician has raised serious concerns about the silencing of women in power. Now, Mr. Sasu, how does this case reflect the broader culture of institutional suppression against women who report gender-based violence, and what precedents does it set for other women in leadership?
So that's a very big question because, in your conversation or in the question that you're asking me about women in power, you're asking me about precedents, you're asking me about what's the empowerment for women. That's what you're asking me. And if you look at our world, we have a general statistics that 1 in 3 women have been sexually abused. And now this is a statistics across the world. It's not a Nigerian statistics. It means that if there are 3 women sitting in this room, 1 of the 3 women would have experienced abuse, harassment, assault, one or the other. And that tells you how grossly of an epidemic sexual harassment or domestic violence or gender-based violence is. And so now let's go back to the topic of leadership. In the entire Senate in Nigeria, we have only 4 women. 4. So to go back to my statistics, 1 in 3 women at any given time. So in those 4 women there, 1 of them has experienced gender-based violence, whether in their past, whether currently, whether they're still going through it. So if a senator comes up and says, this is what I've experienced in this, hallowed chambers, and she's suspended for it, it gives a huge precedence. And these are the things that the men are saying. What are they saying? 1, women should stay at home. What are they saying? 2, if you are beautiful, then you should expect a man's glare and a man's gaze and a man's touch and whatever he decides to do. 4 or 3 is that women should be kept away from governing issues, because then again what it is that she voiced out, which is something that is rare in our society. For a woman for Senator Natasha, she's a woman who has fought for the longest time, fought to be in the Senate, and then she's in the Senate and she hasn't had time to breathe, and there's another issue coming up. So that tells you that she's been fighting for the longest time. And the precedent it sets is that if a woman of power, I need you to listen to this, if a woman of power, if a woman of intellect, if a woman of such beauty, if a woman of class, if a woman that has so much affluence can be treated the way that she has been treated, and it has been publicized and she has been materialized, because I'm sure you've also seen videos of men saying her beauty is her problem or she became too emotional. All of these comments have come up, and what does that tell you of a common woman? It tells you that a common woman will not get justice in Nigeria, because if a woman who's beautiful, who's intelligent, who is affluent, who is a fighter can be reduced to this within days, then it tells you that the regular woman isn't safe in her house, she isn't safe in the market, she isn't safe in school, she isn't safe in the offices, and she isn't safe even with her family. And so we must begin to look at our concepts of these things and begin to not just enact laws like we already have, but begin to implement them and create dialogues that have a way of pruning our system to ensure that everybody's lives matter. And I speak particularly for women. Women's lives matter, and they must own and be able to own their agency.